All right, I'll call to order the Curry County Budget Commission, and if you'll all join me for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, adopt amendment of the agenda. It's number 2.
Do we need a motion on that?
I move that we approve the agenda as written.
Second, Chair Alcorn.
JJ, vote.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried unanimously.
And now we'll introduce the new Director of Operations.
Okay, so I just wanted to introduce the Budget Committee and everybody out there to our new Director of Operations, and that is Brad Rickert. Brad is here. We're really grateful he's on board. He has over 15 years accounting experience. He's got some fancy degrees under his belt, so we're really excited to have him help us. Brad, do you just want to say hi, maybe a couple minutes about yourself?
Yeah, well, as she said, my name is Brad. I recently moved here from Utah. Was born there, raised there. We moved to Brookings, bought a house there. I'm excited to be here. Excited to jump into the finance, to the operations, and there we go.
Well, welcome. It's nice to meet you, and you got a really good name, so
Yeah.
that's a great start.
It is a good name.
Hear, hear.
All right.
And if you want to argue about that, he'll meet you out back in about a half an hour.
I didn't get any requests for public comments, but are there any requests for public comments? And I see none. So next item is approving the minutes from our last meeting, August 26th.
I move that we approve the minutes for the Budget Committee, August 26th, 2020.
Second, Mr. Chair.
JJ, vote.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carried unanimously.
And next item is audit reports, discussion, and corrective action plans. Number A, 2018-2019 fiscal year audit.
Okay, my name is Julie Schmelzer. I'm
Those
the
on,
direct-
Julie? I don't think they're on.
It is on.
Okay.
So, I'll talk a little louder. So, frog in my throat this morning. Julie Schmelzer, Director of Operations for the record. So, what we're going to do is, with this Budget Committee meeting, we're going to go through our audits. And, the question came up, why would we present the audits to the Budget Committee? And it's because the Budget Committee, although they just focus on the budget, they are also kind of our only financial group, so to speak, outside of the board that we work with. So we do share it with you. It also does impact perhaps on some of the expenditures. If we have to buy something in the future to address some of these, it'll eventually come before the Budget Committee. So for those reasons, we do share it with the Budget Committee. So I am going to dive right into it. So the first one I want to talk to you about is the Curry County Public Transit Service District audit. Polly Rogers did our audits this year. Normally the audits are done in spring, and due to COVID, these audits really got delayed pretty long. It took quite a while to get them done. The audits were, Sina in our finance department, Sina Crook, is the one who did most of the work on these audits, and I have to say she did a wonderful job because she was doing this without a finance director. She was doing this while we were preparing for OpenGov. She just really had a lot dumped on her, so I'm really grateful for her help on all these audits. So what Polly Rogers does is they can identify deficiencies, which are things we have to correct, and then they also have best management practices, which they recommend we address. So with this one, they did find some deficiencies. The first one is that the district does not have someone qualified to oversee the audit process. And you have received in your packet a copy of the corrective action plan, which talks about the observation and then the proposed solution. I'm not going to go into the observation, and I'm going to just fast forward to the proposed solution on this one. And that is, to address that concern, the solution is to hire a county accountant and work on succession planning, which the county has not done in the past, by providing education and training to other staff interested in accounting to ensure there is someone qualified for financial duties should there be a vacancy or in the case an accountant is not available. I'm going to take it a little step further. You know, this is just addressing 2018-19, but what we did do is we did hire a county accountant now. And then what we're also doing is putting, the board is going to consider putting Sina as the assistant finance director. So there is somebody there in the absence of the county accountant. And we're also training Carrie Dexter, who's in the finance department. She is gonna, currently she's doing some training on HR, but then after that she's gonna start some training on accounting. So that way we've always got those people in there that can step in and help. And in the event people retire or leave, we do have that succession planning element in our program then. So problem statement number 2, the personnel coordinator has both emergency authority as a check signer and has physical access to the check stock. That, you know, our solution is that we would have the AP clerk continue to serve as the emergency authority until a county accountant can be hired. And then, of course, now we're into this year, of course, and we have hired that county accountant. And in addition, at the board meeting today, the board is going to discuss actually us giving the emergency check signing authority to the finance director. That way we have those checks and balances, and somebody who's writing the checks can't also sign the checks in an emergency. Problem statement number 3, and this one is a best management practice. So this isn't something we have to correct. This would be something they recommend, and that is that the board become more engaged in monitoring practices and asking questions. And the proposed solution is to provide more education about the budget and financial situation at the quarterly budget meetings, so members are more aware of the finances and can then ideally ask more involved questions. And just a note on that, for this budget session, when we started, if you remember, we had some training. I had sent out some information and some links, and we also did a little more background before we actually got into the budget this year. So we're trying to plant those seeds or progress towards those steps. The best management practice number 2 was regarding intellectual property, and that is that the county lacks a policy on intellectual property. And that is definitely true. We don't have one at the current time. But after we got the audit, we did reach out to CIS to see if they can help us develop a policy on intellectual property. So that'll be coming to the board this coming year. Problem statement number 5, which is best management practice 3, is IT controls. It says we lack passwords and some cybersecurity things to that nature. And that is all true. For that budget year, 2018-19, we did lack those policies. However, in May of this year, this board did adopt a cybersecurity policy, and it does address passwords as well. Commissioner Gold, oh, sorry. So problem statement number 6, which is best management practice number 4, regards capital assets. And it says that the transit district needs an asset management policy to track usefulness of capital assets. The transit district does, although they don't have a policy specific to that, they do track their assets. What they have is, they keep detailed records on the fleet operation status, maintenance, age, and mileage. The fleet is maintained per the fleet maintenance handbook, and the director of that organization tracks the fleet age, mileage, and the operational status. And then they report that data quarterly. But one of our proposed solutions is that they continue with that practice, but that perhaps they also engage with the county on the county's proposed asset management software. You're going to hear from a consultant at the end when I'm done with these corrective action plans, and they can talk to you a little bit about how they're going to help us address some of these concerns. So in summary, the transit district has, it's a great run operation. They do a great job, and they only had those 2 deficiencies and some minor best management practices. Overall, they're doing really good. So, are there questions on that one? Okay.
All right.
Do you want me to just go into the second
Yeah,
category,
just sure.
Brad?
Commissioner
I
Boyce.
heard you, just quick clarification. I heard you reference a county accountant and a finance director. Same position, correct?
That's correct. So in our county job descriptions, we do identify that the Director of Operations also serves in the role of county accountant.
Okay, thank you.
And we'll just go right through the list, Julie.
Okay. So I'm not sure if these payroll audit findings on the next one got out to you yesterday or not. The next audit we're gonna go through is the general county audit, and we just got that back Monday night. So I worked on the corrective action plan yesterday. And this one is really concerning to us because what has happened, because it has taken the auditor so long to get us the findings back, the state has actually been withholding 10% of our revenues. So we are excited to get this corrective action plan and the board's resolution and the minutes to them by the end of the day so that they can start giving us that money back that we've been waiting for. I do have to say with this one, I want you to recognize how talented your finance staff is and how hard they worked this past year. The auditor found no deficiencies in this audit.
Wow,
Yes.
that's pretty impressive.
Yes, and it is the first time that staff can remember that there were no deficiencies.
Wow.
So, and again, Sina, thank you for all the hard work on that because I really attribute a lot of that to Sina. Julie Swift helped out with that as well. So, but they did have some best management practices, of course, that they recommended. So we will talk about that. Best management practice number 1 is that we should annually review insurance coverage to ensure it is adequate. And for the corrective action plan, we don't have to file a corrective action plan because these are best management recommendations, but we're going to show that we are intent and committed to even address the best management recommendations. So with this one, what the auditor didn't realize is that the board does review this annually. So annually we have the insurance company come in and they actually do a presentation to the board and the board discusses it. I remember this year Wendy Abel and Amy Timius were here and I remember there were some questions. So we're already addressing that one. Best management practice number 2, the board become more engaged in monitoring practices and asking questions. And just an observation on that, the board changes every 2 years and the budget committee changes every year, possibly depending how appointments are made. And we typically lack somebody who's a true accountant on those boards or committees, but we do education, or we try to do education. This right now is an educational opportunity so everyone understands what's really involved in an audit, the things they talk about and some of the things that they find. And also with our OpenGov software, it's going to make it easier for the board to understand what's going on with the budget. It's going to make it easier for the budget committee or the public to actually see what's going on with that budget. And that education, of course, will help us address this best management concern as well. Commissioner Gold.
Can I make one comment about inventory? It's going to be a whole lot easier for us to keep track of our inventory and know exactly how much we have to insure it for. Previously, that hasn't happened, and I know there was a lot of back and forth because I was involved in the audit with Sina that the inventory, finding the exact inventory in some of the departments was difficult. So it's going to be important that we track that more closely.
That's a really good point because with asset management, the software that we have right now, which will go into effect in around February, and the consultant can talk a little bit about that as well. But with that, we'll be able to track that at our fingertips. You know, we also had this year where the facilities maintenance director every year, he goes through a list of all of our properties, and you know they look at and you know what is the value, and he discusses that with the insurance company. The list was pretty outdated, and this year the new facilities maintenance director actually went out and looked at a lot of these properties, deleted some of them, added coverage on some of them. So definitely having better eyes on our assets, which we should do anyway, we are the government, will help us with also knowing what to insure it for. So best management practice number 3 lacks policy on intellectual property. They found that same finding with the transit district. We already talked about that. We need to get a policy on that. Best management practice number 4, the county has more than the amount of legally required funds. So last year, when they prepared the budget, they did reduce those funds a little bit, and now this year, with this budget that we did, and again, this audit's on 2018-19, but this year, we reduced those funds even more. We went from 24 funds to 16 funds this year, and then we created sub-funds. So we really feel we're on the right track for that. Best management practice number 5, the county needs an asset management policy to track usefulness of capital assets. We've already touched on that, but yes, with the OpenGov system, they do have the asset management module, and that is scheduled to become or go live hopefully in February. Best management practice number 6, we need a review process for grant reimbursements. The county has always struggled with grants, and we're really trying to sharpen the tool on that one, and we have been for a couple years. Again, the software is going to help us with that quite a bit. The budget this past year also helped a little bit, where we separated them out and treated them a little different so they're easier to identify. But this also comes down to education of our management team, because with grants, people have to understand that to accept a grant, it has to go before the board. And then we file that. So unless that activity occurs, finance doesn't know there's a grant out there. And it's harder for them to track it if they're not getting that information. So there's a lot of work we have to do on there. It's not just one, we don't just have that responsibility falling in one area. We overall need to just improve our whole way we deal with grants. Best management practice number 7, the reconciliation between the general ledger and the road department IRIS system is not reviewed or approved. And their observation on that was that other than the person preparing the reconciliation, no one is reviewing the reconciliation for accuracy. The process lacks internal control. And the proposed solution is the new county accountant who plans on doing, who's already talked about, you know, can I do monthly reconciliations? And I was like, oh my God, Brad, we do them annually, but this is awesome if you want to do them monthly. So he's our solution to having that internal control on that one. So I feel comfortable that we'll be taking care of that in the very near future. And then the last one was that the county lacks a policy on passwords. We already talked about that. At the time that that budget year happened that they were auditing, that was true, but we did adopt that policy in May. So with both of these, what happens is the board at their meeting, they have to actually, the budget committee is going to make a recommendation to the board if they're comfortable with these corrective action plans, if we need to change it, or if they're fine, we would recommend that to the board, and the board will take final action and actually record a resolution on that. So the next one we have is the payroll audit findings. So this year, there were just some questions, concerns about how we do our payroll practices. And so the board did allocate some money to do a payroll audit, and they did talk about the best way to address the shortcomings in that audit. And so now this is where we share it with the public. So the observation number 1 was that the manual calculations have errors. And what we're doing is, for the resolution on that is, we're training the AP clerk on the payroll system so there's that checks and balances. What we have had in that department is, we used to have staff, now we're working on slim pickings here. And so what you always have in that department now is we had a finance director, you had the AP clerk and the payroll coordinator. We had 5 finance directors in 4 years, I think. So there wasn't anyone to review that work.
Yeah.
So, and you need that, you need those checks and balances. So we are training Carrie on that so that she can address that. And then Brad as well is going to be training on that. He's already started training on that so that there can be those checks and balances. It also will allow the employee who's doing it right now to get a break, because in the 20-some years she's been here, I think she's never had a vacation over a pay period, because she always has to be here for payroll or we don't get paid. So observation number 2, errors in payroll, retroactive pay, mid-year period changes. In reviewing a W-2, found miscellaneous pay was included in the wages. Their recommendation from the auditor was just real quick, this audit was performed by Moss Adams, not Polly Rogers. So the auditor recommended a separate check for payroll corrections and/or provide employees with a list of calculations, retro pay and mid-pay changes. Also, staff should have additional training on Cassell to reduce calculations outside the payroll system and create additional pay codes. And the resolution is to place a note in the paychecks explaining why the employees are getting extra pay, and then push up the OpenGov schedule to get staff trained on a new payroll system. The new system has pay codes and allows all staff to enter time themselves, which will reduce manual error as well. And so the chair, Commissioner Pash, and I did meet with OpenGov, and we asked them to fast track the payroll portion of the software. That was scheduled for spring, and we said, nope, we need it now. So I would think for about 2 weeks now, I think we've been training on the new payroll system. So they did agree to push that up for us. Observation number 3, hours on manual timesheets don't always match hours reported on the paycheck and in the payroll system. Departments signing off on timesheets with errors. Payroll coordinator reviews the timesheets and tries to fix the errors. So just real quick, what that is, you know, managers usually are in such a hurry, and I can say from experience, a lot of times you're just signing those timesheets and you're not double checking the hours. That has to stop. The management team has to check those timesheets. They have to actually look at it. And then what was happening is if Julie would find discrepancies, she would correct them. She would fix it because she knows that the person has X amount of vacation, so let's put that there to cover it. You know, she's being helpful that way. And the auditor's saying, that's fine, but get something in writing from the employee that gives you the authority to do that. So we're gonna, this week we actually started implementing that. Email went out from the accountant telling people they needed to send emails on to that effect. Commissioner?
And for the public, with the new software program, each employee will do their own timesheet, and then they will forward that to their supervisor. Their supervisor then checks and approves that timesheet, and then it goes to payroll, HR.
That's correct.
So there's going to be one more step of checking in this with the new software.
Right, and that's how that's the corrective action we're gonna take on that one, is with that software system. So, and again, OpenGov can talk a little bit about how that works when they're up to speed. So, moving on, observation number 4, no policy on longevity pay as fiscal year changes. The pay period, so what you have is sometimes you have, you know, when the fiscal years are changing, you know, there's, you need to deal with longevity pay for 2 years at that point. And the question is, how do you deal with that? We don't have a policy on it. So the HR coordinator has put together a policy, and the board will actually act on that policy today at their board meeting. Observation number 5, the road payroll is provided in one spreadsheet, no evidence of approval of individual time cards. And as the HR coordinator did explain, Roads is reviewing and approving the time cards. So it is happening. I think the auditor just wasn't aware of that. So they came up with a resolution, which is basically that checks and balances that we need to be doing. So until we get in the OpenGov system, they're saying you need more review in that road department, and then send those reviews on to the finance department so they can review that as well. Observation number 6, errors in retro pay calculations. And so what we're doing to correct that one is, you know, everything's being entered manually by one person.
That's a drill.
Wonder
The
what Court
concrete.
had for breakfast.
Miranda, can I ask you to go?
That's exactly what it is.
Downstairs,
Miranda, will you ask them to stop until the meetings are over? So, you know, again, you have one person doing it, they're doing it manually. What we're doing to address that is we're having the new director of operations train on the system so that he can review those. Carrie's also being trained on that.
What's that horn they blow at the
Observation
Viking
number
games?
7, inconsistencies in what is on the W-4 and what is computed in payroll. And what that is, you know, the employees are just used to just calling Julie and saying, hey, can you change it? And she does it. And the auditor is saying, just get it in writing. So that's what we're going to do, is just change that, you know, do an internal policy to make sure that they're actually getting a new form filled out when they're changing the W-4 information. And then we also have that the new director of operations will do periodic scheduled audits on that, just to make sure the employees are actually filling out those new forms. Observation number 8, there's no segregation of duties, checks, and balances. And again, to address that, we are training the AP clerk and Brad on that system so that he can be that, they can be that second set of eyes. Observation number 9, the coordinator, well, what happened is somebody did a scam on the county, and we didn't catch it. So we ended up falling for a scam one time that we're aware of. And it ended up costing us, you know, I think about $2,000 maybe. And the resolution is ongoing training on scams from the IT department and anything that our insurance provider would pay or provide for us. And anytime an employee requests a change, make sure we get it in writing from them so that we can't, some scammer can't take advantage of us on that. And we need a policy created to address that matter, and that is something that Brad is working on with his staff. Observation number 10, longevity for one employee was not set up timely. Again, the audit was for 1 year, and it was for a select number of employees. It was for 21 employees. And they found that with one of those 21 employees, it was not set up correctly. And our resolution is to have OpenGov, actually the OpenGov system, calculate the longevity automatically. And we actually had a training session yesterday with OpenGov, and the longevity was discussed yesterday when we talked about that, how we can set it up automatically, how it can be split over years, and just basically how we can improve that whole process. Observation number 11, the employee changes in time are not entered into the system in a timely manner. The recommendation is the finance director periodically review the master file and compare pay rates, import pay scales into the system so changes can be made automatically. And just a little insight into that one, if you didn't read the audit, was sometimes, you know, employees change classifications, and the system isn't checking that classification perhaps until months after. And they're saying that's wrong, which it is. You know, we need to be on top of that. And the resolution is that the finance director will do periodic scheduled audits, and the pay scales are to be uploaded in the new payroll system, which we're working with OpenGov on. So just to let everyone know that we do take the whole payroll system seriously. You know, we're very responsible to the taxpayers. What the board did was they asked Brad to actually do his own audit, because we can't pay Moss Adams to keep doing audits for us. This one here was almost $15,000 on 21 employees, and that was for 1 year. So Brad is gonna do an audit on the entire system back to 2017. So he's gonna do a 3-year audit for us. He's already had conversations with the auditor to make sure he's looking at the same things they were looking at so we can compare apples to apples. So that is what we have on the 3 audits. So are there any questions?
I have a question. So, Director, it sounded like you said that we were bringing this to the Budget Committee so that they could approve and recommend the corrective action plans to the Board of Commissioners. Is that essentially what we're doing today?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then I was looking in the packet. I wasn't sure I saw it because it sounds like you had to work on this between the time the agenda was published and now. So is what you gave was a verbal presentation of the corrective action plan?
Actually, so the corrective action plan for the transit district was in the packet.
Good.
And then, as I said, we just got the county audit on Monday night. So I did that yesterday, and that gave it to JJ to add into the packet.
Okay.
So that's out there for the public to look at.
Compliance is there.
And so you gave a verbal summary then, and okay, thank you very much.
That was the 166-page
Yes.
document. That
It has to be on the record that you did that. That's why you
Right.
did
Yep.
that, Julie.
Good, thank you.
This is what what
All right.
Brad is referring to.
Very
Yeah,
good, thanks.
And I looked at,
Which is only part of the audit. So.
right.
And just for the record, the person who was asking questions was county council.
Sure, and then the 166-page document is the audit. It's not necessarily the correct, we don't have a 166-page corrective action plan, right?
No, the corrective action plan, you know, like was in the packet. It's a
Good.
couple pages,
Good.
maybe 3
Thank you.
pages
Yep.
for each one.
Yep, very good,
You
thank you.
said that was in the packet.
So the one for the transit district was sent out with the agenda last Friday,
Okay,
and then the other one was added to the packet
Yeah.
yesterday.
They're all online. Yeah.
thank you, Mr. Chair.
All right.
Yep.
So, if you're okay with it, Chair Elkhorn, I would just like OpenGov to give us some comments on, you know, a lot of these recommendations are saying how we're gonna change things with finance. and that we've got this wonderful software that's going to answer all our prayers. So I just want OpenGov to comment a little bit. Just a second, we do have a question from the back of the room, Council.
Sorry, County Council again. So Julie, when the Budget Committee is making the recommendations to the board about the corrective action plans, will they be making a separate vote on each, a separate motion and vote on each corrective action plan, transit district, county, et cetera? Just how do you want to do that?
It's up to the board how they
Okay.
handle it, the committee, but they can do it all as one
very
recommendation
good.
that the board
Thank you.
proceed with it.
All right.
So first of all, we're going to hear from OpenGov. So we do have Andrew from OpenGov with us. He's live on, or he's via Zoom. So Andrew, I'm just going to turn it over to you and just have you answer, not answer questions, well, if they have questions, answer some questions, but just kind of give us a little update or maybe some clarification on some of the things I talked about that we're relying on OpenGov to handle for us.
Yeah, sure thing, Julie, and good to connect with everyone here, at least over
Andrew?
Zoom.
Andrew?
Yeah, I wish I could be there in person,
Andrew?
but,
Andrew,
there's
we're
a lot
still-
to do with the times that we're in, so, excited to kind of go over our plan here at OpenGov for the county. I'm happy to answer any questions as well. So, we're working really closely with Julie and the team, just reading through, some of the documents that Julie just presented. There's really a lot of areas where we think we'll really be able to help, streamline and automate a lot of these processes. I know Julie mentioned the goals for tracking capital assets. We have a module, it's called fixed assets, but it really helps you track everything along the entire timeline of each of your assets. So, you'll see when it was purchased, depreciation schedules, timelines. That'll automatically be tracked in the platform. So I think that will streamline a lot of the time that it takes for staff to manage, track things, and then report things back out to the board. There are also a lot of goals for the board being more engaged, more education about the budget and financial situation. This is again something that we'll be able to set up automated reports that go out to board, to the board, to department heads, or even out to the public if you wish. Just to really give that Cliff Notes level view that allows you to get the detail very quickly. And then if you want to drill down and really get into line item detail, that'll all be available too. It's all dynamic in the way that we do our reports. And so we see that being really helpful for our customers once we get those automated reports up and running. And then the other big one that I heard was just on payroll. And again, I think this is something for us at OpenGov. We've really made an effort to get this up and running as quickly as possible. I know originally we had said spring was the timeline. We're doing everything we can and aligning resources to ensure that we get this fast tracked, and we're aiming for a January kickoff date here. And again, with this system, it'll automate a lot of those different processes that sounds like they've been done manually for calculating, time tracking, time sheets, the clocks. Our system will, centralize all of that and hopefully automate and reduce a lot of the errors that come with, manual processes. Julie, anything else you wanted me to review?
No, Andrew, I just wanted to make sure that, I guess that I'm not just standing up here talking, recommending, saying this software is going to address it. I just wanted them to understand that OpenGov, what OpenGov can do for the process, and then to give that opportunity that if somebody had questions for OpenGov, that we could ask them right now before we close out our discussion on the audits.
Sure.
Andrew, I just have one question regarding inventory. I know that we have purchased some pretty high-end road equipment, and I am very concerned that in taking care of other people's, like the cities or the state's ODOT's needs, that we build into our bids a replacement cost for that equipment. And so is OpenGov able to do something like that?
Yeah, so part of the fixed assets module is kind of the retirement plan for the asset.
Mm-hmm.
So you're able to build that in, and every county and every city that looks a little bit different, but that would be something that we would work with you on. If you have a plan for certain high-end assets.
Okay, thank you.
Andrew, I don't see any other questions, so I just want to thank you for, I'm not even sure what time it is where you are right now, but thank you for joining us this morning, and we'll look forward to more training. We've got an expedited schedule. I think we're doing 3 trainings a week right now with OpenGov. Commissioner?
Andrew, I'd also like to say thank you, this is Commissioner Pash, for all you guys are doing. I know you guys stepped out on a limb a little bit and expedited this some, and I just want to let you know the county appreciates it. And I'm looking forward to seeing this getting up and running, hopefully by the end of the year, as stated. And I believe our finance department and HR is getting excited about this now as well. So thank you again.
Yeah, thanks, Commissioner Pash, and we're really excited too. I know, the start wasn't as smooth as we had hoped. Some turnover from our side, some turnover from your side. But I hope what comes through here is you really are putting everything behind you and the team to get this up and running as quickly as possible, and really starting off a long relationship. So as always, please feel free, if there are any questions, concerns, feel free to give me a call or shoot me an email. We do really want to ensure that we get up and running as quickly as possible.
Okay. Thank you, Andrew.
Thanks.
Thank you.
So, Chair, at this point, what we'd like to do is see if we can get some motions on those corrective action plans. I did, one of the things we have to do is, at the end of the day, we have to send minutes of this meeting and our board meeting to the state finance department. So we did do a template for the minutes that JJ is going to fill in and read to us. But the template does have it broken out that you take action on the transit district audit and then separately do the county audit, and there's no action required on the payroll audit. But the board does have the opportunity, if they want, to do them all in one motion too.
If this is going to be reviewed by someone else, I recommend we take them separately. So if they're looking for, where's your decision on this, it's right there. So because you mentioned it's going to the state, I prefer, Mr. Chair, that you just take a motion on the transit district corrective action plan, then the counties and so on.
That's easier for JJ too, because that's how the template is written.
So we really need 2. The transient and the county is the 2 that we need. Okay. All right.
I move that we approve the corrective action plan for the transit district.
Second, Chair Alcorn.
JJ, can we have a vote?
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried unanimously.
All right, and now we'll do the same or I'll entertain a similar motion for the county.
I move that we approve the corrective action plan for the county audit.
Question? Did you just say you wanted them recommended individually?
That's what we're doing.
Okay, so we're doing one at a time. Okay, thank you. I'll second, Mr. Chair.
And JJ, we're ready for a vote.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried unanimously.
Okay, now that we have those 2 addressed, Julie, I'm thinking we take a recess to prepare the minutes.
I have seen JJ typing over there. JJ, are you ready to?
Yes. Well, I wanted to.
Let's take a recess.
How long do you need, JJ?
15.
15 minutes?
Okay.
Why don't we come back? We'll just come back at 9:30. How's that? That worked? Okay, so we'll recess till 9:30.
Sign that doesn't have a rider on it, so we take our first test at this posted speed. Bob Weeks and Harley Bills are seeing more than their share of curvy roads these days. Their job is to drive every stretch of highway in Region 1 several times. All this driving back and forth.
That way we can get it all the way up. All right, sounds good.
The old limits were set back in the 1930s and 40s and were changed very little until just recently. So now our limits are taking into account newer vehicles, a little bit more aggressive driving style, and so those limits are going up.
And going up in a big way. This is Eric Leeming, a traffic devices engineer with ODOT. He's driving an ordinary car with some extraordinary tech on board, a GPS device that records data as he maneuvers every curve in the road. Back at his office, Eric can upload the data recorded in the car, and special software determines exactly the right speed for every curve, every time. Most speeds will increase by 5 to 10 miles per hour, but in some special cases, it's much higher.
The state has a deadline of 2019 from the Federal Highway Administration, but with 8,000 miles of roads to investigate and potentially thousands of signs to change, they're not wasting any time. They're getting out there right now.
Then we're going to W113.
About 800 signs along this section.
That's a lot of signs.
It's a lot of signs. If it's a 35-mile-an-hour corner, you should be taking it at 35 miles an hour.
What draws you to the Oregon coast? Is it the green and blue surf on a brilliant sunny day, or angry, boiling waves during a raging winter storm? Do you prefer quiet coves or powerful breakers churning the sand? How about sand castles? Do you come for the rising tide or the setting sun, to marvel at whales gliding through the sea or flying in the sky? Reasons to travel the Pacific Coast Scenic Byway are as far-reaching as your imagination. This is a spectacular part of Oregon that traces the entire coastline along Highway 101, guiding you to the sea and away again, to coastal towns big and small, lowland marshes, and breathtaking overlooks. It's a long byway stretching from the mouth of the Columbia River to the California border, 363 miles in all, of some of the most unblemished, awe-inspiring seascapes you'll find anywhere. In addition to its designation as a scenic byway, Highway 101 in Oregon also has been selected as an all-American road. That means when you come here, you will experience one of only 31 roads considered to be the best of the best in America.
You know, when people come to the Oregon coast, they're really astonished how beautiful it is, and what separates it from many of the other places in North America that are coastal is how undeveloped it is. And that's because Oregon had a very far-sighted land use program back in the 1970s. We have all these wonderful state parks along the scenic byway that are perfect places to stop and enjoy nature in a relatively unspoiled way.
From the north, you begin in Astoria, the first permanent European settlement in the Pacific Northwest. It's a genuine maritime community with ship traffic from around the world seeking harbor up the Columbia. The official State Maritime Museum of Oregon sits here on the river. Beautiful Victorian houses dot the hillside. And standing 600 feet above sea level is the 125-foot Astoria Column. It features a hand-painted spiral frieze that would stretch over 500 feet if unwound. Heading south, you'll find the community of Seaside, a popular vacation spot that offers miles of public beaches, an oceanfront promenade, and a downtown core packed with restaurants, shops, and even a beach-type arcade. Cannon Beach is home to one of Oregon's most photographed natural wonders, Haystack Rock. Get your shots from the beach, or take a short drive up to Ecola State Park and look down on this 235-foot work of art. The picturesque small town is filled with art galleries, shops, and cafes. Ready for more? 10 miles to the south, this is the view from Cape Falcon. You're 700 feet above the Pacific. Here, the Pacific Coast Byway has been carved out of Neahkahnie Mountain and held in place by stone walls built in the 1930s by craftsmen in the Civilian Conservation Corps. Upon descending the mountain, the highway drifts inward around Tillamook Bay to Tillamook, the unofficial dairy capital of Oregon. The verdant valley of dairy farms in this area produces 25 million gallons of milk annually. Much of that is processed into natural cheddar cheese. And near more than 800 miles of navigable waters, Tillamook is a crossroads for North Coast recreation. From here, you owe it to yourself to veer off Highway 101 to explore the Three Capes Scenic Loop. This drive places you right at the beach, beginning with Cape Mears, home to the shortest lighthouse in Oregon. 9 lighthouses stand sentinel along Oregon's coastline. They're monuments to our maritime heritage, towering links to the past, and as much a part of the rugged Oregon coastal landscape as any offshore monolith. The Cape Mears Lighthouse was first illuminated in 1890. Oregon's oldest lighthouse is at Cape Blanco, the westernmost point in the state. It was commissioned in 1870 to aid shipping generated by gold mining and the lumber industry. The 93-foot-high Yaquina Head Lighthouse is the tallest in Oregon. Today, its automated light continues to aid navigation at the entrance to Yaquina Bay. Many of the lighthouses are open to the public. Most happen to be excellent places to view nesting seabirds and offshore sea life. Tide pools, those rocky areas between high and low tides, support unique and diverse plants and animals. Vast amounts of colorful, otherworldly creatures wait to be discovered. But walk cautiously. These organisms are tough enough to withstand the pounding surf, but are utterly vulnerable to human activity. Wildlife and sea life abound on the coast.
There are 6 national wildlife refuges along the Oregon coast. The Pacific Coast Scenic Byway bisects these refuges or goes alongside them. It provides you the opportunity to see a wide variety of abundant wildlife, including seabirds, seals and sea lions, deer and elk, and many other wildlife.
Cape Kiwanda lies at the southern end of the Three Capes Scenic Loop, near the town of Pacific City. Here you'll find a second Haystack Rock on the byway. Hike up the dune to marvel at stunning views of sandstone formations as they turn yellow, gold, or even red in the changing sunlight. If your timing is right, you'll spot 1 or 2 of the dory fleet sprint onto the beach after a day of fishing. How's this for a dinner setting? Restaurants along the Pacific Coast Scenic Byway accommodate just about any taste. Many serve an ocean view with every meal. Up and down the coast, you'll find seafood, of course, but don't limit yourself just because you're by the water. The Central Coast begins around Lincoln City, which is one of the larger communities on the byway. It has a reputation for being windy and was recognized by Kite Lines magazine as the best place to fly a kite in North America. It was incorporated from several small towns and as a result offers a sandy beach that is 7.5 miles long. A number of small state parks lie nestled along the ocean between Lincoln City and Newport. Stop, get out of your car, and take in the commanding views that are there, right next to your all-American road. Depot Bay boasts the world's smallest navigable harbor, 6 square acres in all. A seawall runs the length of the downtown, so everywhere you go, you're rewarded with a dramatic view of the Pacific. It's considered Oregon's whale-watching capital, with thousands making their way past Oregon each fall and spring. Fishing and whale-watching excursions regularly set sail from this little harbor. Leaving Depot Bay, you'll soon find yourself at Cape Foulweather, a basalt outcropping that looms 500 feet above the water. It was here, in 1778, British Captain James Cook first sighted the mainland of North America on the Pacific coast. A fierce storm that almost put an end to his expedition earned this rugged stretch of coastline its name. Coastal weather can change by the hour. You will find a lot of wet days, but rain can become blue sky with white clouds in an afternoon. Mist kissing the headlands burns away, or storms can last for days. Some people come for those storms. Whether you find sunbursts of happiness or cloud cover like a quilt, there's always a reason to come back. Like Lincoln City, Newport is one of the larger towns on the byway. The historic bayfront on the north side of Yaquina Bay hosts one of Oregon's largest commercial fishing fleets. It has a busy, genuine working waterfront feel, with fish plants and boats coming and going from as far away as Alaska. On the south side of the bay is the Oregon Coast Aquarium. Share waters beneath the ocean with sharks and rays. And don't miss the sea otters at mealtime.
Now, all 4 of our otters were rescued otters. They were found out in the wild.
For the next 50 miles, your trip along Highway 101 hugs the coast. Many more state parks offer opportunities to stop and take in outstanding vistas, crashing waves, and offshore rock formations. 2 small towns of note are Waldport and Yachats. Waldport sits on Alsea Bay, where fishing, clamming, and crabbing are popular. The 40-mile stretch south of Waldport marks steep headlands, jagged volcanic outcrops, and jaw-dropping scenery, the rugged edge of the Oregon coast. Yachats is a quiet, unhurried artist town just a couple of miles north of Cape Perpetua. Drive to the top of this bluff, and you'll be 800 feet above the water. On a clear day, you can see 70 miles of Oregon coastline. Drive past Heceta Head Lighthouse to the Sea Lion Caves. A quick elevator ride 200 feet down puts you in America's largest sea cave, the year-round home of wild stellar sea lions. Rugged cliffs give way to graceful beaches as you approach Florence. In the spring, be on the lookout for wild rhododendrons along the roadsides. Similar to Newport, you'll find an historic Old Town commercial district along the Siuslaw River. Florence is the gateway to the Oregon Dunes National Recreation Area, a 47-mile sandbox of wind-sculpted sand dunes towering 500 feet above sea level. These are the largest expanse of coastal sand dunes in North America. Reedsport is at the center of the Oregon Dunes, but you can do more than ride a dune buggy or motorcycle. A short 3 miles east of town on Highway 38, more than 100 Roosevelt elk reside at the Dean Creek Elk Viewing Area. Early mornings or just before dusk are the best times to photograph the herd. Paying homage to Oregon's timber heritage, Reedsport hosts an annual Chainsaw Sculpting Championship, a time to watch 3-dimensional artwork come to life right before your eyes. Mountains of sand continue at Winchester Bay. You'll also find an active marina here. It's a great place to try your hand at crabbing or take a charter for salmon or bottom fishing. The dunes end and you enter the coast's largest urban area at Coos Bay. It has the deepest natural harbor between Seattle and San Francisco. Foreign vessels sail under the massive McCullough Bridge. You may have noticed, dotted along the Pacific Coast Scenic Byway are many beautiful and iconic bridges. The Megler Bridge in Astoria, Yaquina Bay Bridge in Newport, Alsea Bay Bridge in Waldport, Siuslaw River Bridge in Florence, and the magnificent McCullough Bridge in Coos Bay are works of art in their own right. Charleston is slightly off the byway at the mouth of the bay. It was once an old waterfront fishing village and has become a commercial and sport fishing center. From here, the Charleston to Bandon tour route offers another side trip off the byway. It's a wonderful way to explore a variety of natural Pacific Coast beauty in a number of settings: beaches, vistas, gardens, and more. Giant sea stacks, a tiny lighthouse, and an old town await you in Bandon. Do you like to golf? This remote area on the Oregon coast has not one, but 3 of the most stunning and challenging golf courses in the world. As you drive south of town, look for brilliant red bogs in the fall. You're passing through the cranberry capital of Oregon. After a trek through forests and farmlands, you'll reach Port Orford. The wild coast has begun. You're in the most westerly city in the continental United States, and you've reached some of the most awesome scenery on the byway. Here you can watch a fishing fleet launched by crane in one of only 6 dolly ports in the world. Port Orford covers less than 2 square miles. It's similar to many communities that call this all-American road home. Small in size, still with a lot to offer. Like Manzanita, with a vibrant business district and beautiful setting at the base of Neoconi Mountain. You can board a fishing charter out of Garibaldi, swim in freshwater lakes near Dune City, catch world-class windsurfing at Pistol River. There is little development from Port Orford to Gold Beach, outlet for the renowned Rogue River. Feel like going for a ride? Jet boat excursions run from May into October up this wild and scenic river. Or maybe a midday walk on an uncrowded beach is more your speed. The last dozen miles of the Pacific Coast Byway leading into Brookings save some of the best for last. Treat yourself to frequent stops along the Samuel H. Boardman Scenic Corridor. Short hikes reward you with the best views in this shining stretch of coastline. Walk, relax, and be amazed along the coves in the crashing surf. The world's northernmost redwood grove is 8 miles from the mouth of the Chetco River in Brookings. So, you've toured nature's finest art museum. You've dined elegantly, hung out with sea lions, unwound like you wish you could every day. What else is there to do? Step back in history near Astoria. Ride a horse along the waves near Florence. Pet a baby tiger near Bandon. Hike a trail, sample gourmet cheese, eat fresh-caught crab, watch a sunset.
When you come to the Oregon coast and walk on the beaches or go to the headlands and go to the small coastal towns, you really can commune with nature, and you don't have huge numbers of people, but you're also able to take in one of America's last great unspoiled seascapes.
So what draws you to the Oregon coast? What favorite places lure you back again and again? Each visit is different. The ocean, the sky, the light, and the experience always continue to amaze. Shouldn't you be there?
Why do counties matter? Simple. Counties provide the services we all depend on. If you're concerned about crime, get a regular flu shot. Drive to work. Take public transportation. Or experience a natural disaster in your community. Chances are you benefit from county services. That's why counties matter. With America's system of federalism, counties are a key level of government, serving the people directly. So, do you vote? Had a recent hospital stay? Know someone in a nursing home? More reasons why counties matter. There are 3,069 counties across the country.
All right, we're back on the record with the Curry County Budget Commission meeting. And next on the agenda is our next meeting time. But we have 2 members missing today. So it might be better if, Julie, we discuss the best way to approach that.
Sure. So our next meeting is our mid-year review, and because we don't have those 2 members, I think we should not schedule it right now. The other thing that is going to impact that is one of those members, their term expires in this year. So we're going to have to do an appointment. So we might have a different member for that mid-year review. And then also depending on what happens with the election, we might have a different commissioner
Right.
on there as well. So let's just wait on scheduling that and have Brad poll the new members when it's time to have the mid-year review. And Brad, just, we usually look at every 3 months. So you'd look at meeting in January is when we would typically do that.
Commissioner Boyce.
Mr. Chair, general time frame then is 3 months from now?
Yes.
Okay,
Every
thank you.
quarter.
Question?
Mr. Huddle.
Thank you. Did we talk about the timing of the new member? Because the budget committee primarily worries about a fiscal time period, the June, July one. Are we then appointing the new budget committee member to come in at the fiscal instead of, for instance, January, where somebody's coming in to old work? I'm just trying to make sure we're coordinating, the appointments to fit the work they're doing and reviewing.
Yeah, we had some legal advice from one of our attorneys that said we should have those appointments end at the calendar year. So with this one, it ends at the calendar year instead of the fiscal year.
That attorney needs to really get his head examined.
Initials JH maybe?
It makes a lot of sense though to do it at the end of the calendar year. It's so much easier for staff to track them. And with this one, actually I like the fact that it is at the calendar year because then the new person kind of gets familiar before they actually have to work on an actual budget. It works good.
I will say there's a big learning curve for this.
Yeah.
To be effective, and if I were new again coming on, I would sooner the better would be my recommendation.
Well, and that's good to hear because, I think that also helps with some of those audit concerns about educating your committee, right?
Yeah.
They get to come in mid-year, they get to learn a little bit before they have to dive right in.
Yeah, the learning curve is substantial, and the more training you can get and the more time you have to process everything is what's beneficial.
Great.
So, all right, so next on the agenda is approving.
So the attorney was right after all? Is that what we just determined?
Kind of.
Nobody said that.
Somebody mark that time and date down.
Yeah, you get a kind of right on that. All right, next is approving minutes from the budget meeting today.
Okay, so because we do have to, the state, normally we would approve our minutes at our next meeting, but because this audit is late and we need to start getting that money back here, we can't wait another 3 months.
Correct.
So JJ's been taking good notes. JJ will read them into the record, and then you can decide if they're okay as written, and we can take a motion on that then.
Should I read all the minutes or?
Yes, JJ. I think you should read them, JJ, into the record.
Budget committee. Budget Committee meeting minutes, October 21st, 2020. Call to order, Pledge of Allegiance. The meeting was called to order by Chair Alcorn at 8:33 a.m. Present were Chair Brad Alcorn, committee members Court Boyce, Sue Gold, and Commissioner Pash. Absent were Vice Chair Richard Toad and Member Wayne Richards. Also present, John Huddle, County Counsel Julie Schmelzer, Budget Officer Brad Rickert, Director of County Operations, AKA Director of Finance / County Accountant, and Administrative Assistant John Jesuit. Adoption of amendment of the agenda. No amendments. Motion by Commissioner Gold, seconded Committee Member Boyce to approve as written. Motion carried unanimously. Introduce new Director of Operations. Schmelzer, the current Director of Operations, introduced her replacement, Brad Rickert. She indicated Mr. Rickert would be working with the committee for the next 2 meetings and the new committee moving forward. Public comments, none. Approved minutes. Budget Committee meeting, August 26, 2020. Motion by Committee Member Gold, seconded by Committee Member Boyce to approve the minutes from August 26, 2020. Motion carried unanimously. Audit reports. Discussion and corrective actions. A, 2018-2019 fiscal year audit, CCPTSD, Curry County Public Transit Special District. Schmelzer spoke in detail about the results of the audit, noted while improvements have been made, there are still some areas of concern, and explained the staff's proposed corrective action plan. She also indicated the corrective action plan and a resolution accepting the plan would be presented to the Board of Commissioners at the upcoming business meeting later that morning. A brief discussion ensued. Motion by Committee Member Gold, seconded by Committee Member Boyce to approve the proposed corrective action plan and recommend it to the board for adoption and implementation. Motion carried unanimously. B, 2018-2019 fiscal year audit, Curry County. Schmelzer spoke in detail about the results of the audit and noted that due to the length of time the audit took to be prepared, the state was withholding 10% of the county's funds from the state. After the meetings for the day, she would file the meeting minutes and other associated paperwork, which would result in the funds being restored. She also praised staff in that the audit found no deficiencies, rather just recommended best practices. She added that to be best of staff's recollection, this was the first time the county audit was done with no deficiencies noted. Although necessary to develop a plan to ensure the best practices are indeed implemented, brief discussion followed. Motion by Committee Member Gold, seconded by Committee Member Boyce to approve the proposed corrective action plan and make a recommendation to the board to adopt the plan and resolution. Motion carried unanimously. C, 2020 payroll audit. Schmelzer stated that there were some errors noted in the county's payroll practices. Therefore, the board had an audit prepared for 2019 for a limited sample of employees. She explained the board had met with some union employees, had the findings shared with the management team, and were presenting the audit and findings as information only and to provide full transparency to taxpayers on errors found, reconciliation plans, and so the taxpayers understood why the money was expended. A discussion ensued. No action was necessary. D, OpenGov, comment on corrective action plans. Schmelzer introduced the consultants from OpenGov. The company has selected to provide financial software. They spoke about how the new software can assist in correcting deficiencies and improving how the county operates and provides services. 7, next meeting. Schmelzer stated that next meeting would be the mid-year review. She also explained one position is expiring and the election could impact membership. Due to 2 members being absent, no meeting date was set. Rather, Mr. Rickard will set a date and poll members to determine when they can attend. Approved minutes, October 21st, 2020.
Thank you, JJ.
Darn good, JJ.
Very good. So I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes that JJ just read.
So moved.
Doesn't matter who moves it. I'll second.
So moved, Mr. Chair.
And can we have a vote, JJ?
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carried unanimously.
All right, if there's no other questions, we'll adjourn today's meeting.
Good
All
job,
right,
Mr. Chair.
Meeting's adjourned.
All righty.